Hi guys! So we're gonna do mukbang for you today, and Luis is gonna tell you the story of how he came to live in Las Vegas. And we're having Gardein crispy tenders and some seasoned crisp cut fries. I forget the name of the brand, but they're from Natural Grocers. And then we've got some natural ketchup that we're gonna give a try that we've never tried before. So it's all you, babe, pretty much this time. So.
Well, should I give? Is there? Should there be any context? Like of whom? Because your reason for coming to Vegas is because your dad retired, and he chose Vegas to retire, right?
Yeah.
Well, my reason is my mother. So should I talk a little bit about who my mother is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, let's see. So my mom, okay. This is gonna be jumping around a little bit, but it's fine. So back in 2002, 2003, I tried like to reconnect with, because my father and I didn't have the best relationship, and so I tried to reconnect with him, and so I lived with him for a while, and then so as we were talking, because back then, he owned his own little shop where they sold like women's clothing, shoes, toys, right? So one day we're in the shop, and I'm helping him, and we're talking, and I asked him how he and my mom got, how they became to be, and he pretty much admitted that the reason why they were together, and the reason why they got married is so that way he can become a citizen. And I think he became a citizen in '88, and he's been, voting and all that, paying taxes ever since. So, and he's really proud of that. So my mom, why does that have to do with my mom? It was because I have ideas why she turned to drugs, but I don't know for certain why she became a drug addict. And the drug that she liked to use, was meth. So she was a meth addict, right? And I want to say that it was because of my uncle, or her uncle, which is my great uncle. If it's her uncle, it's my great uncle. I'm pretty sure that he was an influence on why she became involved, in drugs and all that. So, she was part of a gang in Carlsbad, and so anyway, so that's a little bit about who she is. She's a drug addict. She never worked while my sister and I were growing up. She was always on welfare, and so she was a welfare recipient. So in 1997, my sister went to move with my aunt, so my mom's sister, because things were getting pretty bad. So back then, instead of paying for the rent and bills, like a person would use the government funding to do so, that's why she was being paid for, she would use that money for drugs. And so we went months without having electricity, and so we were having to try to steal electricity from people. For example, the apartment next to our apartment was vacant, but a month went by and no one was moving, and so my mom's quote unquote friends, her gang member friends, broke into that apartment and discovered that it still had electricity. And so they ran, so their master bedrooms are next to each other, so what they decided to do was drill a hole between both walls so they can run extension cords through and plug it into the outlets, so that way our apartment could have electricity, right? And these gang members were crashing there, they were sleeping there, they were hiding from the cops there, and my mom would allow it. She'd have no problem with it. So
so when you would come home from school, you would have to step over people drugged out on the floor,
right,
hanging out.
Yes.
That was an environment that he grew up in.
Because I had in the front door, living room, to the hallway to get to my room. Yeah, all drugged out or using drugs. I can see it. Meanwhile, my mom, she would hold herself up in her bedroom and with her friends, and just never come out. So eventually I got a job when I was 14, working for the North County Times, which is a newspaper at Carlsbad, and I tried to make some money doing that. But anyway, so that was 1997. So my sister moved out. She went to with my aunt. So by the way, my aunt I think my aunt had a choice. I think she did have either you take both kids or you take one. And so she took one, which is fine. That's fine. So I was left with my mom in that environment. So in 1998...
Well, you should talk about how your job at the North County Times is what provided food for your sister and clothing for you and your sister, because your mom was not providing anything for you guys. And she was using the welfare money for drugs. So he had a job. He would buy things and take care of his sister.
And so my aunt came. She decided to take my sister, so I was left there. And I'm fine with that. So anyway, so now it's almost March of 1998, right? And we were evicted. And so my mom, you know, in the morning, I'm getting ready for school, and there's a knock on the door. And before anyone can answer, before anyone realizes there's a knock on the door, it's pretty much kicked open. These guys kick it open, sheriffs, right? So there's a sheriff, a couple sheriffs, officers, whatever, with the manager of the property, saying that, you know, we're being evicted, this and that. They're arresting all these guys, because, you know, there's all this stuff everywhere, so they're arresting everyone. And we were kicked out. We were only given like 10 minutes to whatever you can carry. That's all you're taking, whatever you can carry. So I got my backpack. And so after that, my mom, she was a little shocked, and she was trying to decide, well, so what's our next step? What do we do to sleep or to have shelter or whatever? So she went around, and I love this part. I love this part because all this time she'd always talk about, oh, you know, my gang members, you know, we're a family, and we're close knit, and we're, you know, we take care of each other, and we watch out for each other. And I would always roll my eyes whenever she said that, because if that's the case, then they wouldn't be doing drugs or bringing that crap into this home where I was at. And I was only a teenager back then. And so what she decided to do was that she went around to all her friends to ask them that we can crash there for the night. And every single one of them said no. All of them said no. No, no, no. So she calls my uncle, and my uncle says, my uncle, who's also my godfather, was living here at the time, in Vegas. Well, in fact, he still lives here. And at the time, my mom called him and asked him if we can come here to Vegas, right? So he says yes, that when we come here, we can stay with him and his wife in their apartment. So we had a, and I'm going through, like, there's a lot happened, but, you know, I'm streamlining it. So we got the money. It was $90 for 2 one-way tickets on the Greyhound to Vegas, but we had to get to in Carlsbad, that train station that we went on. So we had to catch the double-decker Amtrak to another place, which I forget, and get the Greyhound from there. And that Greyhound took us to Vegas. So we stayed overnight in that train station, you know, just out in the open. So we stayed there, got on the Greyhound, came to Vegas, and she calls my uncle, and so she calls him, saying, hey, we're here, where do you live, or do you want to come pick us up? He goes, yeah, well, change of plans. My wife and I are fighting, you can't stay with us, so I'm sorry. So my mom, she asked him, well, what are we supposed to do? He says, good luck, pretty much, good luck. So my mom, see, she isn't all that bad. I think she's lost herself. I think her and my uncle, her uncle, my great uncle, were very close. You know, but he served in Vietnam, and when he came back, I don't think he ever came back. I honestly didn't think. I think he saw some things there, or he did some things there, which, you know, in war. So he never came back, and I think they were close, and he influenced her into this drug world. And then, you know, her mom and her never got along, right? And just when they were about to repair that relationship, her mother was murdered by her boyfriend at the time, who's still in jail serving a life sentence. So I don't think my mom ever processed any of this. And so drugs to her was and I'm not trying to give an excuse, but drugs to her was an escapism. Mm-hmm. But the point is that she was always so caught up in that world that she was never focused all the time. But the moments that she was able to focus, she could be very resourceful, right? And so after she was finished talking with my uncle for the phone, she started talking to people. We saw other homeless people, and eventually she found out that there's a shelter nearby, a woman and children shelter, And so we went there, and we signed up or whatever. So I was 16 at the time, but the shelter initially told both of us, well, you could stay, my mom, but he can't. He's pretty much a man now, so he needs to go to the men's shelter, which is a couple miles north of here. And by this time it was already late in the evening, and so they were pretty much saying, and he may not even get a bed tonight. So but somehow she was able to convince them that I could stay there with her. And so we stayed at the shelter, Shade Tree Shelter, which is like in North Las Vegas, like just past downtown, the Shade Tree Women's Shelter. And so the way it worked was, it kind of looked like an auditorium, right? This huge space with that was lined with shelves, and the shelves would have blankets and pillows, and so you would get blankets and a little roll, like very thin, I don't want to say a mattress, but like a roll-out pad that you would sleep on. And so everyone had to be in by 6 p.m. 6 p.m. doors locked.
It's early.
So if you didn't come in, if you came at 6:10 or 6:01, you're coming back tomorrow. So 6 o'clock, doors closed. You would have your dinner, and then it's pretty much bedtime. The lights out by 9. Lights out, right? So the next morning, lights are up at 6 a.m. and by 7 you had to be out, and you could not come back until 6 o'clock. We woke before 6, like between like 5 or 6.
So they didn't feed you?
No, just go. You slept. You have your dinner. Yes, your meal. It's your dinner. So you would have dinner, and then after that, you were meant to go do something. So
1 meal a day.
Yeah. So my mom. So this is now April 4th is when we arrived, 98. So now April 5th. We have nothing to do. So my mom decides, well, we're gonna go. We're still looking okay. There was no real shower there, but there was like sinks or whatever. So we washed our faces, and I had long hair back then. So I combed my hair, and we went around. We applied at places for jobs. And the next day after that, so we were there almost a couple weeks, right? So my uncle met us and gave us some money so that we can buy food or whatever. And the shelter had a program. If you qualified, they would give you a rental voucher, and I think it was for $700. And if you qualified, you were given this voucher, and then you had to go around the city pretty much and find whoever accepts these vouchers, right? And that would give you 1 month. So if you qualified for the voucher, and B, if you found an apartment, that would accept the voucher, well, now you have 1 month to get your crap together, right? So we qualified for the voucher, thanks to my mom. She was able to get us a voucher, and then eventually we found an apartment, which is still standing. I drove there, not maybe a year and a half ago, just to see. And so we had a month. So that was April 4th. So around April 10th or 11th, we get the apartment.
You have such a good memory.
Okay, we get the apartment, and it was furnished. It was great. The thing is, like the sofa only had 1 cushion out of 3, so there's 2 cushions that are missing.
That's weird.
And the TV had picture but no sound. But you had you had a table, some chairs. They had a bed that we didn't sleep in because we didn't get who knows, you get like bed bugs or whatever. Yeah. So I'll take some of that.
Okay, good.
So April 24th. So first, my mom gets a job at the Stratosphere. The Stratosphere, which is like a resort. If you go to Vegas, it's that tall tower. Like there's an observation tower. There's rides on the top, and so my mom gets a job there as a housekeeper, and then my uncle worked there actually too, and he worked as a cook. He worked as a cook at the employee cafeteria, right?
I don't think I would ever talk to him again after what he did, but but anyway, that's just my opinion. Family, right?
So he pulled some strings, got her a job, and then he pulled some strings, and he got me a job working as a ride attendant, elevator operator. So I started April 24th of 98 is when I started. And I'll tell you, so from then until about, I would say 2001-ish, my mom and I lived a normal life. She was working, she cleaned up, she wasn't doing any drugs, I was working, and it was fine. It was fine, until things started crumbling again with her. So and my
And the next time it was painkillers, right?
yeah, it was Vicodin, yeah.
She became addicted to painkillers
Yeah,
after
because
that.
her back was always hurting.
My back's always hurting too, but I'm not taking any of that stuff.
So that's why I ended up here. So, you know, I can't be mad at the whole, you know, there's a whole series of events, right? Of one leading to another, which leads to another, which leads to another.
There's always a silver lining.
And so, was my mother a good mother? No. Do I love her as a mother? No. Do I like her as a person? Maybe.
Sometimes.
Right? But if it wasn't for her being, and I'm trying to say this in the best way possible, but if it wasn't for her being such a fuck up, you know, I would never have ended up here, and I would have never have ended up at Bellagio, and then I would never had met you.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the series of events that, and so it took 7 years from when I arrived to Vegas to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
7 years, but
it happened.
Yeah, it happened. So.
Yep. So if you've never moved here, we would have never met.
Mm-hmm. I probably would have been an actor. Who knows?
One thing for the other.
Yeah, one thing from the other.
He wanted to be an actor. He had a teacher that was willing to sponsor him for acting classes.
Well, she knew a guy who would help me get like profile pictures, who knew casting agents that I can audition for. Because I guess, you know, you can put a tape together where you're acting random plays, you know, like portions of plays that you can either act as just showing a wide array of emotions, and then you would send that tape out to casting agents or whatever. Then that way, one day, hopefully you get a phone call. So, but the thing is, like, just about when we were ready to meet her friend, you know, this guy, and everything at home happened. So.
And this was his drama teacher, because he did take drama class.
Mrs. Stapleton.
How many years did you take drama?
8th, 9th, 10th.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I don't know, I liked it. You know, I liked theater.
I could have been an actor, but you probably wouldn't have met me, so.
I probably would have met you, like a sort of like, you know, red carpet thing or whatever.
Yeah, sure. That would have never happened. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. The story of Luis's, part of the story of Luis's childhood. We're thinking about making this a regular Friday series, Storytime and Mukbang. So let us know if you like this. And always remember that there's always a silver lining. Even if you have to look really hard for it, there's always something you can make a positive out of a situation. So, and if your mom had never moved in with us, we would have never had Gary in, because we couldn't afford daycare at the time. So there are some positives from his mother being in our life.
We should talk about our wedding day.
No, that'll be another story
time. There was some drama there.
Yeah. One of these days we'll give you the story time if you guys are interested about our wedding day and the drama that went on our wedding day.
I guess, what's a wedding without drama, right?
What's a family get-together without drama? We'll see if there's any tonight at Logan's birthday party. Hopefully not. I don't think so. Not with my family. But anyway. So we're going to end it there. If you're interested in more story times, make sure you let us know down in the comments. And we might make this a regular thing every Friday. So that's it. Thanks for watching my little broccoli bites, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye!